Good morning, everyone. The meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman. Has anyone signed up for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. Les Trobman, General Counsel. We had one person register for comment this morning. Robin Harrison, if you're on the line, you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce your name for the record. Comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Does not appear that she's on the line. Okay. We have no further registrants for comment this morning.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are we today?
Very well, thank you.
Oh, well, good. Let's attack this agenda here. No cases to reconsider under agenda item 3. Is that correct?
That's correct. No cases.
Let's take a look at tax liability cases under agenda item 4, but no tax cases on docket 14.
Correct. None this week.
No fair housing cases on agenda item 5.
Correct. No cases.
How about wage claim cases pulled for additional discussion on agenda item 6?
None pulled for discussion this week. You should have already received the wage claim short form dissent list.
Well, I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 14.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 14.
I concur with the chairman's motion except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 14.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Move to agenda item 7, consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 14. Please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you.
The AT decision should be reversed. In his initial self-disqualifying statements to TWC, the claimant admitted that he had told the employer via text that he needed a day off to handle personal business and that his boss replied that he would be discharged if he failed to appear at work. The claimant did not show up for work despite this notice, and since he knew he would be discharged, misconduct was established. To the extent that the claimant had to get his truck repaired, the claimant stated that his insurance contacted him about his truck, thereby suggesting that the issue with his vehicle had existed for some time, and that the claimant's failure to address that issue until insurance contacted him constituted negligence. Since the claimant failed to handle his personal life in a way that would not affect his work, we should reverse the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response. In the alternative, I would agree to rehear this case to develop the record regarding the specific issue with the claimant's truck and the discussion he had with his insurance company.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged for excessive absenteeism. The employer produced an absent policy, but there is no acknowledgement of receipt, and it is written in English, and the claimant could not read it. The claimant had many absences, but the evidence demonstrates that the claimant's absences were tolerated. In the final absence, the claimant provided proper notice of his need to be absent. The claimant's final absence was for the employer's benefit. The employer had the claimant use his personal vehicle to transport crews, and the truck required service to be safe for that purpose. The evidence fails to establish misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be modified. The material facts are not in dispute. The claimant felt ill and texted the employer that she would be at work after her medical appointment. However, the claimant did not show up to work after her appointment, nor did she notify the employer that she would be absent for the remainder of the day. The claimant was a no-call, no-show, and under the employer's policy, her absence from work without proper notice constituted job abandonment. Furthermore, I would not agree to an MVI in this case because the claimant's illness did not absolve her of the responsibility to contact the employer, and the evidence in this case does not establish that her illness prevented her from texting the employer to report her absence. Under these facts, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment, and we should modify the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant's final absence was due to illness. The employer told the claimant that she was not allowed to return to work on June 9th without a doctor's release. The claimant provided medical documentation to the employer, which established the claimant was not released to return to work until June 10th. The claimant's final absence due to illness was not misconduct. Affirm the 18, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
So my vote's misconduct and no chargeback. Does that require adequate employer response as well?
If the claimant is disqualified, there would need to be an adequate employer response ruling.
Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2623957, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant was required to travel out of state for the job with the employer. At the last job site, employees were not observing safety protocols such as wearing masks, using hand sanitizer, or wearing protective gear. New employees arrived regularly from out of state and were not required to quarantine. The claimant complained to his supervisor, who said that he would take care of it. However, nothing changed. The claimant quit due to the risk of COVID-19 and with good cause connected with the work. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, void chargeback, valid claim, no overpayment.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the claim is valid and the chargeback ruling should be voided. As to the job separation, I would agree to qualify the claimant under the disaster provisions of the Act. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, valid claim, no voluntary leaving, disaster, void chargeback, no overpayment.
I concur with Commissioner Demerson.
I believe we have a unanimous decision.
Case 2658894, Commissioner Demerson.
The commission should grant a rehearing in this case. The claimant refused to accept further assignments with the employer because they conflicted with her personal schedule. However, the record should be further developed as to whether the employer agreed to the claimant's preferred schedule, such that it agreed to give her assignments only during that window of time. Indeed, the claimant stated that she had previously worked different hours with the employer, and the employer continued to offer work to the claimant. Accordingly, we should rehear this case to further develop the record on whether the employer agreed to the claimant's scheduling availability and for any hiring documents that reflect whether the claimant agreed to work only a certain schedule.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant's assignment ended and she was not offered work that was comparable to her prior work. The offers of work that occurred after the claimant filed the claim are not relevant to the job separation. The claimant was laid off due to a lack of work when she was not offered further assignments. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Alvarez. Demerson. Excuse me, Commissioner Demerson.
Case 2706146, Commissioner Alvarez.
This case should be reheard. During the claimant's 9 months with the employer, she was trained and had a team leader checking her work. However, the claimant continued to make mistakes. The employer stated that the claimant was still having a hard time understanding the payroll procedures. The nature of the work is not simple, as even the claimant's team lead missed some of the issues. Based on the limited record we have available, it seems that the claimant was unable to meet the employer's expectations, which is not misconduct. Nevertheless, during the short hearing, the AT failed to ask some necessary questions, and the record is not adequately developed. Therefore, we should rehear the case to ask the parties whether the claimant ever met expectations and whether she was working to the best of her ability.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant had received warnings regarding her job performance. Nonetheless, the final incident consisted of the claimant making the same error she had previously been warned for. Since the claimant had received warnings regarding her job performance but failed to improve, her actions constitute work-connected misconduct. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2709793, Commissioner Demerson.
The commission should grant rehearing in this case. While the claimant denies wrongdoing, one of the employer's witnesses stated that the claimant initially called him to report a gas test and had completed and passed, but called again later to report a gas leak. The employer's witness visited the site later and indicated he saw where the leak existed versus where the leak was reported. In addition, another employer witness stated that the individuals who provided witness statements were not available to testify because they were out in the field. While it appears these witnesses are secondhand witnesses, their testimony under oath could provide helpful context to details surrounding the final incident. As such, the commission should grant a rehearing for testimony from the employer's witnesses.
The decision should be modified. The claimant was the only party providing firsthand testimony regarding the events on June 19th. The employer provided numerous witness statements, but none of them were from the plumber present with the claimant on June 19th. The employer's witnesses provided only hearsay and were not qualified to perform the work at issue. The claimant was the only licensed plumber providing testimony about the repair. The claimant's sworn testimony that he correctly performed the leak detection and repair was more credible. The evidence fails to establish misconduct. Modify the AT, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer, void adequate response, sever reasonable assurance.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer, void adequate response, sever reasonable assurance.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson. And those two votes did match, even though one of the commissioners said reverse and the other said modify, the votes did match.
Case 2716436, Commissioner Demerson.
The commission should grant a rehearing in this case. The parties agreed that the claimant was required to obtain a certain certification for her position. However, there is a dispute as to whether the claimant furnished the employer with the proper documentation to establish that she obtained such certification. The claimant provided the employer with the certification credential verification notice, which the claimant stated confirmed her certification. However, the employer provided evidence that it was told by the certifying authority that it had no record of the verification notice and that it typically did not send out such a notice. Since it appears that this issue was not resolved at the time of the AT hearing concluded, we should hold a rehearing to gather testimony from the parties about the status of the claimant certification.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant was required as part of a promotion to obtain certifications. The claimant was provided multiple documents demonstrating that she did, in fact, obtain the required certification. Over a year after the claimant was told she had obtained her certification, the association refused to confirm certification because the association confused her with someone who had the same name. There is no evidence that the claimant committed any wrongdoing with regards to the certification. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Case 2720175, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be modified. First, I agree that the claimant's appeal to the AT should be deemed timely, since she never received the original determination in this case. On the merits, the claimant worked at a nail salon. She stopped working there once it became clear how dangerous COVID-19 was and the risk it posed to her. The nail salon closed down shortly thereafter. Nail salons were almost universally closing down at the time that the claimant stopped working because of the pandemic. The claimant's unemployment was clearly the result of COVID-19, and she should be eligible for PUA benefits. Modify the AT, timely claimant appeal, PUA eligible, no overpayment.
The AT decision is partially supportable, but needs to be modified. The claimant was ineligible for PUA benefits during the time between her resignation and the time she attempted to return to work, but should be considered eligible starting with the week in which she attempted to return to work to a workplace that had been shut down due to the pandemic. The PUA program allows the state to date a claim to the time that a covered claimant becomes eligible. She became eligible for PUA benefits as soon as she attempted to return to the nail salon where she had worked, only to find that it had been shut down as a result of the pandemic. She should be allowed to have the effective date of her claim adjusted to the week in question. We'll need to send a memo to UIA and OS to investigate the exact date on which the PUA claim should begin.
I concur with Commissioner Demerson.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case 2724292, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant was working in an unsafe environment in which she was a witness to a murder, stabbings, and threats on her life. The claimant reported the incidents to the employer. The claimant took advantage of an employer assistance program, but found it unhelpful. The claimant also sought a transfer, but no transfer options were available in her local. The employer admitted there were incidents and that since her departure, additional measures have been taken. After implementation of additional safety measures, the claimant has returned to work. The claimant has established the environment was unsafe. She made the employer aware of the issues, sought alternatives, offered solutions, and gave the employer time to implement corrective action. The claimant only quit after nothing was done, despite the employer having ample opportunity to do so. Reverse AT, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant stated that she quit her job due to unsafe working conditions. However, the claimant did not exhaust all remedies to remain working with the employer before she resigned. In addition, the employer stated that improvements in security personnel were implemented in response to the incidents the claimant described in meetings with the manager of the security company. Accordingly, the claimant's resignation was without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Emerson.
Case 2730593, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant separated from work when she was involuntarily committed to a medical center for medical condition. The claimant did not have access to a phone and could not communicate with the employer. The claimant's separation was due to a medical issue and is not disqualifying. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, memo to investigate the claimant's ability and availability while hospitalized.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant was out of work for a period of time due to medical issues. However, the claimant did not provide any medical documentation to the employer or to the Texas Workforce Commission supporting her need for leave. As such, the claimant quit without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2736820, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. This continued claim involves a single day of work. The claimant completed the task and no further work within her department was offered. The claimant worked in the employer's community services department, providing rides and running errands for the clients. The only continued work offered to her was in the employer's residential department and would have required her to bathe and groom clients, cook meals, and change and clean residential clients' diapers. The work offered to the claimant was outside her normal job duties. The claimant was laid off when she completed her task and the employer had no further work to offer her in her department. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, no overpayment.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The job separation in this continued claim was initiated by the claimant when she chose to stop working for the clients in a residential setting. The claimant was concerned about exposure to COVID, even though the residential homes followed CDC protocols. Because the claimant quit while work was still available, and there is no evidence that the employer failed to follow health and safety guidelines, the claimant's quitting was without good cause connected with the work. Therefore, both the disqualification and resulting overpayment are appropriate. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving beginning April 26, 2020, overpayment of $2,751.
I vote to rehear to determine whether the claimant returned to work at any time after filing her initial claim.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you repeat that?
Rehear to determine whether the claimant returned to work at any time after filing her initial claim.
Ms. Miller, I would agree to rehear as well.
We will rehear the case.
Case 2742552, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant has provided sworn testimony that her job of 3 years ended in mid-December 2020. The employer was going to place the claimant in training for another job on January 11, 2021, but the training was canceled. The employer has not offered the claimant further work, and the employer did not appear for the AT hearing to dispute the claimant's testimony. The preponderance of available evidence establishes that the claimant was involuntarily separated when her job ended, and the employer offered no further work. No misconduct has been alleged, and the claimant therefore should be qualified for benefits. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. Because the claimant was on a voluntary leave of absence while work was still available, the claimant quit without good cause connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2743183, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant was separated when ICE pulled the claimant's background clearance, making him unavailable for work on site. The employer had no say or involvement in the process. The employer has also alleged that the claimant violated an employer policy. The employer did not provide the policy, but the policy to which they testified only prohibited contact with residents. The employer believes that the claimant's clearance was removed because he had a former resident as a Facebook friend. As testified to, the employer's policy did not provide sufficient notice to the claimant that the contact with a former resident could be grounds for dismissal. Additionally, the claimant had no knowledge of any of his Facebook friends were former residents. There is insufficient evidence to find that the claimant committed misconduct. The claimant's separation was caused by the operation of law and not for misconduct. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback due to operation of law.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant was aware of the employer's policy, which prohibited contact with any residents at any time. While the claimant admits that he friended a former resident on social media, he alleges he did so inadvertently. However, the claimant is responsible for his social media contacts and is in full control of who he chooses to friend. The claimant admitted he accepted the friend request, even though he did not know who the person was. The claimant's negligent handling of his social media accounts does not excuse his violation of the employer's policy. By failing to manage his personal life so that it would not interfere with his work, and by violating an immediately terminable policy, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2745649, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. The claimant testified he was without child care beginning December 1st, 2020, but that he was able to secure child care through a family member beginning January 3rd, 2021. The claimant has regularly completed his required number of work searches during the period. The claimant's ineligibility should be closed January 2nd, 2021. Modify the AT, claimant not available to work December 1st, 2020 through January 2nd, 2021. Overpayment of $1,700.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant informed TWC that beginning on December 1st, 2020, he was not available for work due to child care issues. Because the claimant testified that he arranged for child care the week of January 3rd, 2021, the claimant's ineligibility should be closed the week before on January 2nd. However, because the ineligibility would still be in effect through the month of December, the overpayment is appropriate. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, availability, not eligible from November 29th, 2020 through January 2nd, 2021, overpayment of $1,700.
Modify the AT, claimant not available for work from November 29th, 2020 through January 2nd, 2021, overpayment.
Commissioner Alvarez, does that comport with your vote? I'm not clear on your initial start date for that ineligibility.
So modify the AT, claimant not available to work December 1st, 2020 through January 2nd, 2021, overpayment of $1,700.
Okay. You're off by 1 day from the other two commissioners.
I would agree with Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We have a unanimous decision.
Case 2746357, Commissioner Demerson.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant was discharged for making offensive and racist statements at work. The employer has presented written statements from 5 witnesses who described the claimant's multiple incidents of inappropriate comments and racial slurs. These written statements easily defeat the claimant's denials of wrongdoing. When faced with such overwhelming evidence, the employer had little choice but to terminate. The claimant's actions contributed to a hostile work environment, violated policy, and created potential liability for the employer. Thus, because the claimant mismanaged his position of employment, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant was fired for alleged comments he made at work. The claimant has provided sworn firsthand testimony denying the allegations. The employer only provided secondhand testimony and hearsay statements to support their allegations. As such, the employer has failed to provide sufficient evidence to establish misconduct. Affirm the 18 no misconduct chargeback.
We should rehear the case. The employer offered to provide firsthand witness testimony, and we should hear that in the rehearing.
I agree with the chairman.
We will rehear the case.
Case 2752198, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant was discharged for allegedly signing off on work product that was not correctly done by a coworker. The claimant and a coworker provided credible firsthand testimony that the claimant's job duties did not include supervising or overseeing the work of other employees. The employer only witnessed, and the employer's only witness in the hearing was a human resource director with no firsthand knowledge about the circumstances of the claimant's discharge and who did not seem to have a clear understanding of the claimant's job duties. Based on the evidence of the AT hearing, the employer did not provide sufficient evidence to establish misconduct by the claimant. Reverse the AT no misconduct chargeback.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant signed off on a batch list, thereby attesting that the materials used in the mixer were correct. While the claimant admits he signed the document, he blames the error on his coworker. I understand the claimant's position that he did not have time to observe his coworker at all times because the claimant was tending to his own mixer. However, based on his multiple prior warnings, the claimant knew that his job was in jeopardy. At a minimum, the claimant could have questioned his coworker about the ingredients that were used in the mixer before adding his signature. Because the claimant simply signed the batch list without making any effort to determine whether the ingredients used were correct, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. We should affirm the AT decision. Misconduct, no charge back.
Affirm the AT misconduct, no charge back.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez. And that was the last UI case pulled for additional discussion on docket 14. You should have already received the UI short form dissent list for docket 14.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 14.
Chairman, I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on UI short form dissent list for docket 14.
Chair, I want to concur with the chairman's motion, but before I do that, can we go to case number 4, or should I go forward with accepting this motion right now?
What do you want me to do?
I want to go back to case number 4.
Let's go back right now.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Case number 4.
Yeah, and it's appeal number 2658894.
Yes, sir. 2658894.
I got a short form dissent there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to add something to that as well. The short form dissent, but we should send a memo to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's availability for work.
Availability for work. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Right, so I'll proceed with concurring with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 14.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. Let's pause for just a few moments to reset for the rest of the meeting.
Yes, sir.
I believe that our public commenter has arrived at the meeting. Robin Harrison, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself, introduce yourself for the record, and begin with your comments. You have 3 minutes public comment. Ms. Harrison?
This is a telephone call.
I believe so. I think Ms. Mercado was going to ensure that she was still on the line.
She may have *6 or something like that. I'm not sure how you unmute.
Thank you for your patience. Ms. Harrison, go ahead.
Are y'all able to hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead and introduce your name for the record, and please proceed.
My name is Robin Harrison.
All right, please provide your comments now.
With 3 minutes to speak, there are several hours of audio and many pages of documents that legitimize my concerns. I'm asking that there be an investigation of the actions of the TWC Civil Rights Division holding Brian Snoddy and staff involved accountable for what they knew, did, and chose not to do. As an attorney, Snoddy should be ethical in everything that he does when dealing with those he may believe aren't deserving of fair and equitable treatment in investigations. I can compare how I was treated and things that were written about me based on William Cooper, the investigator, sending another client Jessica Ortiz's record December 2020 as a DocuSign. On December 23rd, 4 confusing yet similar DocuSigns were emailed in 1 hour from Cooper and Randall Glasgow to confuse me rather than proofreading or recalling them. It was intentionally deceptive that Cooper called me on December 23rd, sticking my signature on the Quail Chase case that had been closed 5 days earlier, and missed the opportunity to be true about the case being closed when I asked about the new investigation timeline. TWC split the case, separating Quail Chase from Houston Housing Authority on December 14th, the same day of the HHA conciliation attempt. It was closed with no discussion of fact-finding December the 18th. Calls are recorded. The outcome of the claim was driven by the way that it was written. By altering my story, removing respondents as well as my son as an aggrieved party, they used their positions and influence to sway the outcome, adding more pain to my experience with no remorse. Brian Snoddy, David Pernell, Patrick Williams, William Cooper, LaShane Pierce, and Randall Glasgow were all men that were involved with my case. Furthermore, Corey Donegan, as a white female attorney, used her privilege in a conversation to imply that the offer from HHA was reasonable. What gave her that right? TWC failed to clearly inform of the investigation process and acted out of malice. A determination of cause was found, but instead of moving the case to litigation, Cooper intended to settle it prematurely, offer me $2,500 in conciliation from King Lewis, a respondent removed from my case as the attorney supervising the main cause of the case, abusing his attorney status. As many times as I referenced the problematic issue of Lewis representing the housing authority when he was a party to the issue, TWC ignored me. Both Lewis and Snoddy graduated from TSU Law School 4 years apart, and the admiration may be the failure. These calls are on the record. The request for review was mishandled and lacked a proper response addressing the facts that TWC conveniently excluded in the original investigation of the case. In an email last week, Snoddy stated that he had sent information to HUD to investigate, but since he won't identify the issues, his own second look findings are questionable. Cynthia Washington called uninformed on March 3rd, but confirmed that Quail Chase would not be reopened, which is recorded problematic and contrary to Mr. Snoddy's statements. This call needs to be heard, reviewed, and compared to Snoddy's findings. I have rights and they have been violated in many ways by men who judge me with implied stigma. Accountability is required. The process, outcomes, and conduct of TWC administrators must be reviewed impartially beyond those who failed to act when it was required of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. That concludes our public comment for this morning.
Thank you very much. Let's move to agenda item 8, discussion, consideration, possible action regarding approval of adult education and literacy advisory committee membership.
Hey, good morning. Can everyone hear me clearly? Hello, good morning.
Fabiana, you need to speak up, please.
Okay.
Speak up.
Good morning. Is that better, Mr. Cerna?
Yes, thank you. It's a little bit better.
Okay, great. Good morning, Chair Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, my name is Fabiana Ramirez with Adult Education and Literacy. Texas Labor Code, Chapter 315-005, and Texas Administrative Code 805-43 require the TWC to establish an Adult Education and Literacy Advisory Committee. The advisory committee must not be composed of more than 9 members and must include at least 1 representative of the business community and 1 representative of a local workforce development board. 2 committee members' terms ended in December 2020. At this time, the commission may appoint 2 members to fill those vacancies, and staff seeks direction on appointing Dr. Rita Hernandez, the president of the Cameron County Education Initiative, and Brenda Schofield, the director of Adult Education and Literacy, Region 5 Education Service Center, to serve on the AEL Advisory Committee for a 2-year term. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
Chairman, I'd like to thank Tiffany Johnson from Victoria, Mary Jo Hernandez for the work they did during their appointment period.
No questions.
Do we have a motion?
Chairman, I move that we appoint Brenda Schofield and Dr. Rita Hernandez to serve on the AEL Advisory Committee for a 2-year term, which will expire in April of 2023.
A second.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have anything under agenda item 9. Do we have anything under agenda item 10? No, nothing under agenda item 10. This agenda item 11 is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding approval of local workforce development board nominees.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration today are workforce board nominations for 5 workforce boards this week. We have Workforce Solutions Gulf Coast, Lower Rio Grande Valley, Middle Rio Grande, Panhandle, and Southeast Texas. Staff recommends that all nominees be approved, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None here.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the board nominees for Gulf Coast, Lower Rio Grande Valley, Middle Rio Grande, West Central Texas, Panhandle, and Southeast Texas.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. No legislative proposal report. Is there a legislative report? Yeah.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Michael Britt, Governmental Relations. Last Thursday, the Texas House passed House Bill 7, which relates to the computation of the replenishment ratio used to determine an employer's unemployment compensation tax rate. This bill will now go to the Texas Senate for their consideration. Also last week, the Senate Committee on Finance voted out Senate Bill 1, which is the General Appropriations Act, and the Texas Senate is expected to consider Senate Bill 1 on the Senate floor later today. The House Appropriations Committee also concluded their consideration of subcommittee recommendations on House Bill 1, which is the House version of the General Appropriations Act last week, and they are expected to hold their final vote on House Bill 1 soon. That concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Any comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cerna, the Executive Director's report.
Nothing today, sir.
Nothing today. Is there any other order of business come before the commission?
Chairman, I do have a few things I'd like to say today, if that's okay.
Yep.
Commissioners and Ed Cerna, a few weeks ago, the offices were briefed regarding the return of $1.5 million to WIOA statewide reserve funding. I am told that currently we have a balance of approximately $7 million, and that is without the additional 1.5. Ed, I would like staff to explore using the 1.5 of WIOA statewide to support the Texas Industry Recognized Apprenticeship Grant Program, which was created by House Bill 2784, 86th legislative session. House Bill 2784, as we know, authored by Speaker Phelan and co-authored by Senator Alvarado, now Section 302, Subchapter 1 of the Labor Code, was created to address the immediate industrial workforce needs of the state resulting from natural disasters and overall workforce shortages. In February of this year, Texans endured a devastating winter storm which caused extensive property damage, which intensified the already existing shortage of skilled workers. The pandemic, although negatively impacting various industries and occupations, did not curb the demand for skilled workers. The Texas Industry Recognized Apprenticeship Grant Program will provide the type of training to upskill dislocated workers and connect them with occupations that are in demand in the skilled trades and will help address shortages in the state. In 2019, Commissioner Demerson and I were honored to be at the governor's signing of the bill 2784 and heard the impactful story of a homeless veteran who benefited from the same type of training to lift herself out of homelessness and into a life of sustaining career for herself and her family. No one training model fits all. And this would just add another tool to our training tool belt. I look forward to seeing this discussion paper. Thank you, Commissioners and Ed, for allowing me to state this. The other thing I would like to say is I would like for everyone to keep Desi Holmes and her family in our prayers. That's it.
Chairman, Commissioner, I look forward to working with you and the team on this the discussion paper that comes forward. One point I wanted to make, not for that, but there continues to be jobs remaining in Texas, jobs that are available here in Texas, and employers are emphatically in support of bringing workers back to work. And so down the line, I'd love to look at a campaign to really promote the jobs that are available here in our state. The employers are looking for those individuals. And so if a Texan wants a job, needs a job, we do have those jobs available. And so work with the local workforce solution offices, the team here to promote employers and employees having an opportunity to go back to work and to take over those jobs. I look forward to working in that vein.
I'm looking forward to evaluating Commissioner Alvarez's request and the subsequent work by staff. This seems to be altering a funding formula that the commission passed. This additional 1.5 million. Is staff planning on bringing that alteration back before the commission for us to consider?
Yes, sir.
Will that be done jointly or separately?
We can combine it, or we can.
I would prefer not to combine it, but they probably need to come roughly about the same time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay, great. And then also what Commissioner Demerson said, there are jobs showing up on all of our platforms. If folks think they can't get there because of their current skill set, you should definitely talk to TWC. We have a number of training programs in place that you could avail yourself of, and I think those would be beneficial. Anything else, gentlemen?
None here, Chairman.
None? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
I can't believe you guys. I'll second that motion, but the Baylor Bears last night, I know we want to put that on record.
I am proud of the Baylor Bears, but my alma mater is also in the Big 12, so I will confine my congratulations to this season. But congratulations to the Bears basketball program.
I appreciate the coach acknowledging this great state of Texas, and we bringing back the national championship back to this great state of ours.
So I second that motion with all of that being said.
Oh, you amended it by saying "Sick 'em Bears" is what you did. Been moved second to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you.